What's happening, team? I hope this finds everybody well. Welcome back to the Built for Pressure podcast with me, Will Foden. Yes, I am back. I'm back from British Columbia after 2.5 weeks away with my little boy and my friends Brad and Gemma, obviously my wife too. And today on today's episode, I'm going to do a bit of a check-in in relation to how I'm going to be approaching Q4. Most professionals, CEOs, executives, even athletes that are trying to juggle both things when it comes to their athleticism and their profession, they're pushing the needle of Q3 as hard as they possibly can to get numbers over the line so they can set and go again into Q4, which for me, we always call that separation season. Definitely not my term. It's been coined from years of working with other people. But this is my favourite time of year. The weather's changing. Manchester's actually got sun, but it's freezing. But more to the point, actually, being able to step back with inside my business was hugely important to me, not only to regather and regain connection, but also taught me some huge lessons around my own personal performance. Now, if you are been involved and looked into our journey for a long period of time, I'm an outdoor adventure boy at heart. I want to be out doing stuff, and sitting on a beach for 2 weeks, getting on the piss and eating all inclusive is not for me. I am way more around. To be fair, I think we lived on bagels, cottage cheese sandwiches, and picnics whilst we're away. But actually getting out and having adventure is something that's massively important to me. But whilst I was away, and this was the first time inside my business since I started Stay Strong Collective 4 years ago, I actually took a full 2 weeks off. I think many business owners or entrepreneurs or people that are looking to push their profession, they struggle with this understanding that actually you don't need a vice grip on absolutely everything. But again, when you're bootstrapped, I've bootstrapped this from nothing. I've pushed myself and people that I've worked alongside for a very long period of time. I've always felt that I've had to be on. And I preach and I teach a lot of the CEOs and the sort of the executive professionals that I work with about you can't be on unless you can take yourself off. This was actually the first time that I've done this for a long period of time, where I actually literally for 2 weeks, I put the tools down fully. The biggest lesson that I learned there was actually it all comes down to your planning and actually how you actually frame that for yourself. For me, I needed the break. I didn't actually recognize how much I needed a break until I actually got there, where those that have been around mountains, I think it's weird. Being in the mountains gives you a certain different type of energy, and British Columbia itself is an absolutely incredible place. Yes, I would move there straight away. What an insane energy that sort of level of nature has on somebody. But actually, for me, allowing myself just to be connected and the coolest part of this whole holiday was actually taking my boy. Whilst I'm filming this, my son is he's 18 months. And many people said to me that actually, why would you take a kid to do such an amazing holiday who's apparently never going to remember it? I remember we were at the bottom of Mount Robson, diving into a glacier lake. Even Mr. Bradley Foster got his shins in, shout out to him, and my wife jumped in, saying that I think the term was that it can't be worse than giving birth. It was that cold. But actually watching my son watch us do that really, really hit something home, was that kids absorb. Everything between now and the ages of 7 of a child is what dictates everything from their psychology, their physiology, their behaviour, their neurology, their biochemistry, everything. So actually associating that, putting him in that position to be able to do so, to be able to learn, to be able to absorb, to see his parents and be part of an adventure. We climbed up some Hailing Point was over 2,500 meters up. We took him right onto the top of the ledge. If you guys are on my Instagram, you can have a look. We took him up there, which most people look at us like, "What are you doing? Why have you brought a kid up here?" He didn't walk the whole way up. He was in a backpack. But my point was being, he was part of the journey. And I said when we said we'd have children, I did not want to think about it as I have to explore and do cool stuff whilst I'm retiring. I want to live every year as hard as I possibly can. And I think that was one of the huge points. There's some other big lessons that I learned from Canada itself was actually it's okay to step back, but your standards don't slip totally. Was I training every day? No. Was I tracking my food? Not really. Was I making sure that I had enough protein? though? Yes. Would I make sure that I took a greens powder because I wanted to make sure that I had enough vegetables and vitamins and minerals inside my diet? I still took my supplements. I still guarded my sleep as much as I could. I wasn't a weapon with eating food that, yes, it was delicious or naughty, but I wasn't being a dick. Lo and behold, I've actually come back and I'm the same weight, got back into training, and I'm already starting to drop freight again because my central nervous system was allowed to recover. Gym sessions were apart from doing a squat session with Brad that we were both walking like John Wayne afterwards. The rest of it was super simple. A couple of runs, a couple of gym sessions with average weights, but that wasn't the point. The point was that my standard was that I was going to get something in. Something was better than nothing. And I think for me, that is massively imperative. If you're looking at it from a scientific standpoint, remember your body's a habitual organism. If I don't train, I turn into a wanker, excuse my French. But also, it affects my sleep because I'll have too much energy. It affects my mood because I haven't let out the inner monster. It affects how everything that I do, more from a position of training is part of my standard and part of my lifestyle. So heading into Q4, something that I want you guys to sort of take away from this is actually what are the subtle changes in your behavior that you can take to elevate your performance in Q4. For me, the subtle changes are actually recognizing that how important downtime is. From a central nervous system standpoint, my metrics were through the roof. I have the highest HRV I've had all year round, actually being in the mountains, regardless of what time of day it was. I had the best sleep in relation to score since when I was over there. Being openly candid as well, my digestion was absolutely fabulous. I going to the bathroom wasn't like going to see Jesus, but more to the point of everything from I had no negative feedback loops in relation to my biochemistry or my biophysiology at all. I now recognize that how important that is. For someone who is wired to achieve and push themselves, for me, it's very, very difficult because all I want to do is do stuff. All I want to do is be part of things. And all I want to do is push myself. Actually, the visual now matches the audio in relation to why it's so important to take a step back and actually be in nature and not have to push your limits all the time, because now I feel physically capable and physically ready to take Q4 into the next realm. Ambitions for Q4 for me, from an athletic standpoint, is get myself BJJ fight ready. That's what I want to do. I want to compete within the next 3 months, and that also means recomposition. That means that actually I'm weighing in at 95. I was at 94.3 this morning. I want to drop body fat and be around that 92, 91 mark, because to be able to fight, for me, I need to be fighting at 90, wearing a gi 92. So those are my sort of physical goals. Now, when it comes down to those sort of physical goals, what I want you to recognize here is this subtle changes in how I'm going to do it. We're not looking for maximal feats of performance to be able to do that. The peak is obviously going to competition, but how to get there isn't looking at going to competition. How to get there is what to do daily. Whilst I was away, I checked back in with myself in relation to where my food needs to be. I've got Mr. Dan Reeve, shout out to him, who's currently doing my training. We've matched my nutrition for that, and I should be losing 0.3, 0.4, 0.5 kilos per week. That's not very much, but if that snowballs, that will be enough for me to actually compete in December, and vice versa. Like I said, I want to keep as much muscle mass on as possible. Let's put the ball into your court a minute. If you are going into if you're finishing Q3 like a burning plane and you're not quite sure what to do, reason being is you're looking for something that's too big. If you've dominated Q3 professionally, but physiologically and from a health standpoint, you're in the bin, you're looking for huge changes. My advice to you is to either, if you're going to diet, make sure you bookend it, or if you're going to do what I do with my customers, is we set out long-term strategy battle plans of actually realistically what you want to do is ramp into Q4. Be steady heading into Christmas. You're going to enjoy yourself over December, because if anybody is actually dieting over December, you're a wanker, excuse my French. And then actually in January, you're not going to be in this bucket of extremes that other people have been doing. You're actually going to be cooking and ready and still seeing progress regardless of what you're doing. So just remember that actually what you see in huge feats of performance, if you the higher you climb, the higher you will fall. Just remember that. The next lesson that I found was actually building trust, and building trust in myself means you have to actually commit to the thing, and regardless of what you think, follow it through. What I mean by that is actually stepping back from my business. That was something huge for me. Was I had to trust myself, trust my process, trust my systems, and also trust people that I work alongside, that actually I was deserving to have a break. If you work in the fitness industry or the performance-based industry, you are on all the time. I haven't had a bank holiday in years. I've worked early mornings, late evenings since I was, for whatever age, if it's over a decade. And my point being is actually sometimes that's the name of the game, especially when you have a kid. You need to learn that actually taking a step back is actually warranted, and you are able to do so. I've worked my fucking ass off to get to this point, and by no means have I completed the game, and by no means am I absolutely making the impact that I want to make, I'm getting closer. But actually giving myself the audacity and the trust to be able to step back and just be present is massive for my mental performance, my mental health, and also for my personal well-being. And actually, I've just completed an NLP mental skills course through the coaching room with Jay Headley. Shout out to him. And one of the biggest takeaways that I had from that course was actually, what meaning am I giving to my performance? Because that what builds intention around it. Too many people ask for things and are not willing to commit to them. They don't understand the sacrifice they're asking for, and they're actually talking about surface level results. For me, that's why most people struggle. They struggle because they don't have the physiological capacity to be able to do what they say they want to do, because actually what they're doing, they haven't committed to it and they haven't got the intention behind it. The meaning behind why you want to lose weight needs to outweigh just one of your mates was taking the piss. Your intent, your meaning behind it needs to be so much deeper than that. An example: I want to be that dad that has an adventure with my son until I fall off this planet. Period. I do not want to be that dad who is a fat fucking melt who can't even run around on sports day. More to the point, I don't want to walk into a room and people go, Jesus Christ, look at him. Is it all about looks? Nah, I'm not the coach for you if it is all about looks. I'm the coach for you that is better at how to build more capacity and to actually be more effective and be an asset for your team, but be an asset for yourself. Fitter, faster, stronger, leaner, that is always the goal for me. And whenever I get asked about what I want to do with my training, it's that. It's never a case around just fat loss. But remember that unless you have intention around what you're doing, everything that you're going to be doing is surface level. Next bit is, what is actually the bigger picture? The bigger picture for me is how I can build the level of company that I want, whilst being the standard of father and husband that I want. Which actually means there's huge amounts of trade-off. I will not give up my family for my business, period. Full stop, capital letter, not going to happen. But I see so many professionals who, I was on a conversation before I left with a particular individual, and he'd had 2 marriages committing to his job. That for me is not high performance. If it's the wrong relationship, I totally understand that. But if your job has taken over that much that you've had to leave your spouse to pursue your job, I hope that fulfills you. It doesn't fulfill me. So actually understand what big picture means to me. I understand what time I want to spend with my son. I understand what time I want to spend with my wife. I understand what time I want to spend with my friends. The biggest lesson that I learned from British Columbia is, what time do I want to spend with myself? It's been a very long time since I've actually taken time for myself. It's a very long time since I've recognised that doing something so simple helps you feel so much more reconnected. And it took me to actually fly 9 hours away to recognise that I can still do that in the UK, but I need to make that happen. It needs to be inside my diary. So for Q4, it's a bit of a long way. That was a bit of an interlude and a looped way of thinking when it comes down to what British Columbia taught me and the sort of trails of thought that are going on in my mind. But here are 4 key questions that I want you to answer around Q4. I'm in the middle of building out a Q3 review and a Q4 separation season battle plan. That'll be available. I'll be putting that out there underneath the show notes in the next episode. But these are the 4 key understandings that I want you to take away from here. What does success actually look like for you in Q4? Across your personal, physical and professional. Definitive definition of done has to have an end point, has to look like and be a certain thing. Can't be wavy, because if it is grey, it's not tangible. What's one thing that you can do to elevate your standard across something that you know that you want to improve on? Like I said, for me, I left to go to British Columbia in the strongest and fittest position I've been in all year. But the goalpost has shifted a little bit. Instead of going more from an endurance and athletic standpoint, I'm now being more specific with BJJ. What's one thing that I can do to get me in the position that I want to? For me, I need to drop 3 kegs. That means being in a small calorie deficit. That means increasing my output a little bit. That means actually I'm pulling back on certain things, even though they seem minor, they will all add up, because as I said, when I get to competition, I don't want to be having to starve myself to get there. So what's one thing that you need to do? Number 3, what have you been hiding from? And what do you need to meet head on? I see so many people who are asking for new things, and actually they don't need new things. What they need is they need to stop running away from the hard decision. What they need to do is face something scary head on and fucking tackle it, instead of trying to search for a secret source or a secret way of doing things. Point being, if you are sat there and you've been struggling in Q3 and you cannot, and it's over something that you cannot take responsibility for, fair. But I'll be very, very surprised if there isn't something that you can take responsibility for, whether it's for your physical well-being, whether it's for your professionalism, your leadership skills. Taking ownership is massive. So what's one thing that you can stop hiding from and tackle the first month of Q4? Fuck this, face it. If it's big, if it's scary, good. Because if it doesn't scare you, it's not worth doing. And finally, have you looked after yourself in Q3 and those around you? Because if you haven't, what do you need to do to alleviate that? On the same note of that though, heading into Q4, whatever goal that you've chosen, is that actually looking after you and the people around you with that decision? Yes, you need to be selfish. Yes, you need to look after yourself. Yes, you need to be, this is all about number one. But the name of the game is bringing somebody alongside you, bringing the people that you love with you, and actually being connected with the things that truly matter. Being on holiday really has, I hate being candid and being coy, but British Columbia changed my whole perception, and it was a life-changing experience. Taking my friends and family to one of the best places in the world and doing exactly what I love, I could have lived there. But the realistic truth is I could find that level of connection anywhere in the world. It's just that giving myself the courage, the trust, and the focus to be able to do that with those around me right here, right now. I don't have to run away to find that, but I had to step away to understand the mechanisms behind that. So anyway, I digress. That was British Columbia. That was what I'm going to be doing heading into Q4. As I said, not this next week's episode in the show notes. I will have that done. Forgive me, getting back off holiday. You can only imagine jet lag with a baby is wild. I appreciate you know, like, and trust, and I appreciate everybody thinking about this. If you like this episode, do let me know. If anything resonated or you'd like to talk more, also please let me know. And lastly, if you're a CEO, an executive, or an athlete who values their performance, who wants to take yourself to another level, our October cohort is starting right now. If you'd like to learn more about the program, about what we do and how I can elevate your performance across the board for you or those around you and your team, DM the word BFP. I'll let you know. Anyway, I digress. I'll catch you soon.